Okay, cool, awesome. So I saw this movie a few weeks ago. I think I watched it on New Year's Eve because I wanted to see it before everyone else so I can know what we were getting into, and I was so impressed by it. How did this movie come about?
Well, I was taking a class I live in Santa Barbara. I was taking a class in City College called Writing Your Memoirs. And I was thinking back about some of the most important. I didn't want to write a book, a complete book, but I thought I'd love to write short stories. And I thought, what would be some of the main things in my life, the turning points in my life that changed my life? And I thought, well, gee, Planet of the Apes. And I thought, well, when I became an apprentice, because I started my apprenticeship on July 16, 1966. And I worked with people who did Marilyn Monroe's makeup, Elvis Presley, Clark Gable, all these old, and I listened to their stories, and they're magnificent stories about Hollywood's golden age. And I thought, Jesus, so interesting, but I realized they're all dead. All those stories went with them. And then I thought, well, you're an Alder-Cocker, for God's sakes. You tell your story. So what was probably one of the most exciting times in my life was working on Planet of the Apes, how I got there, and so I started writing that story, and we go to the Academy events that they have there, and there's a guy that we know who photographs all the actors and directors and so forth. And I got this idea, I want to tap him on the shoulder and say, you want to make a documentary? Just like that.
Yeah, just like that. When did that process start?
It took 4 years.
But he was
It was easy.
It wasn't easy. But no, Will, who directed this, he knows more about what we did than we know. He was a huge fan, so he'd always listen to us talking, and he would sit in the front. I always had to sit in the second row because I don't want anybody in front of me, so he would put his camera equipment so I would not have anybody in front of me, and he'd listen to our conversations, and he'd say, I know what you did, you guys did this and this, and he would always turn around and tell us what we did, and who was the actor, and we would go, God, you really know our history, and that's how the relationship began.
So I tapped him on the shoulder and said,
and he said, you want to make that? He goes, I would love to, and he was very excited.
Good, good. You said 4 years.
This family has a little production company.
Yeah.
So they served as a cinematographer, one of the other producers, and the director. I didn't want to direct it. I wanted to stay back and direct the director.
Yeah, it was a real labor of love because, like Tom was saying, so much of my favorite times on the set was listening to the old timers sit and make a case and tell you these stories and how they did things, and it's not like that now. And so you'd listen and we'd say, we really have to, we would talk about this like 20 years ago, we should film these people, because every month in our union thing, another person dies, and so we thought, okay, we'll start. And 3 people in our documentary passed. Annie Streetbeck's not with us, Eddie Buddy Butterworth, and your brother,
Maurice Stein.
So anyway.
Yeah, and that's something that I pulled the most from, because you guys know this about me, I'm not a makeup artist, but I am a creator and I love working in big collaborative groups, and that it's so much about the relationships of the people you work with on set.
And the history, because, when we all started, you have IMAC, you have Monsterpalooza, none of that was around, it's like, it was just like little groups, Fangoria conventions, or little groups of first Trekkies or things. Now, if you think thousands of people, it's always been like this. It was never like that. Tom's studio, and John's was the first out of the major studios, and so I just think it's a wonderful thing to have this history that you all will now have in this documentary. So don't forget iTunes pre-order.
Pre-order it for sure. And then speaking of the relationships and the history, I want to know how this happens, because that for me was like the most fascinating. I was like, oh, I heard the whole room go like, oh, you guys.
I hired Barry. She was working at Universal, and she came in and brought her portfolio, and I saw her portfolio, and she's it's got how many, 8 art schools, and
my degree's in fine arts,
and so I wanted to get a feminine approach on the transformation of Natasha Kinski, not like Werewolf in London, which was very kind of muscly and gross and very masculine. So that's why I hired her, and then she tricked me.
She got you. Yeah, because you guys are going to be so busy working, this is how your dating pool's going to happen, right?
It's what's wonderful, but we are happiest working together. We just are really good at different things. I mean, you know, and we don't even have to talk. We'll work on an actor, and I said, go get a cup of coffee, because I want to be in my space, and he's over there, and he needs to go. And then he'll say, why don't you go get breakfast?
And so much of that, of being a good artist and working in good collaborative, is having someone you can communicate with very easily. So I have people that I work with in my career that are like not necessarily romantically linked, but like you just get each other. You just get each other. It's Marissa right back there. You just understand how each other works, and that's when you can like make some things happen. So like I can see that with you guys. You have such a synergy, and then it happened to be romantic then.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is that when we work on anything that's really gross, like the Nip Tuck, if any of you guys ever watched that, it's got really gross stuff in it, and we work on it together, but she can't watch it.
I don't watch anything stressful.
Because it's connected to once they tell the story, she's like, you put the blood on the face.
When it's part of the story, I get so destroyed. I can't take it.
Were there other projects that were like that as well? Like Nip Tuck is like intense.
Yeah, CSI had some of that stuff.
Yeah.
In it. Even Grey's Anatomy, we did a lot of crazy stuff with things in somebody's eye and stuck in their head and holes through them.
Yeah, well, we touched on this in the documentary about like the difference between working the movie or the TV, like the pace of it.
Yeah.
Talk to us
Well,
about
we
that.
know, for instance, like, let's say the fat suit that Rick Baker made for the Nutty Professor. I think he worked on that 8 months, I think.
Yeah, they had a lot
around
of
8 months.
Yeah.
Well, we had 11 days to build exactly the same thing. I mean, it's really a fat suit from here to the ankles, and including facial prosthetics. So we've been doing it long enough that we know how to cut those corners and make those things happen quick.
Yeah.
And still maintain as close as to motion picture quality as you can get.
Yeah, and that's something that Steve talks about in his class a lot of times, because it's like his toolbox, right? The more that you do it,
Yeah.
the more that you learn, but you want to work with multiple people so you can start learning all of the tricks in your toolbox. Yeah, any special ones that you think you can share with them?
What do you mean?
Like you didn't know like a nail polish remover can do this?
Oh, you could tell them about that time.
What time would that be?
I forgot the makeup case.
What was that? What was that?
Oh,
Family Guy?
Family Guy.
Family
You know
Guy.
that there was an
You know,
episode.
Family Guy, there's one real shot in Family Guy, in one of those things, I don't know if you guys saw it, when, what's his name, whatever the father's name is, I don't remember.
Peter?
Right.
Thank you.
And he's sitting on a bench.
Well, he's sitting on a bench and he licked a frog, and all of a sudden he becomes real. So we had to make Peter into a makeup.
So, but it was
So
like,
it's good.
we had to be there
This
like,
is really messed up.
so it was like a 4 in the morning, so we're going to the studio, we're packing everything up, and he's a little crunchy, and we're just getting ready for go to location, and he goes, where's the makeup case? We had the appliance and everything, and I said, I don't know, I thought you had the makeup case. and so we were at a studio, I said, calm down, okay, it's okay, I got this. And he's just fuming, I mean, he's like, steam. And I went to somebody on another stage that I said, who was doing a glamour, I said, do you have a duo? Can I use your duo? And do you have a black pancake and another? And I just gathered these things, and he is just dying, and he did it. We put together a duo and pancakes and all the, you know, but you have to think on your feet. You can't like collapse. But it was a good thing, of course. He always
Yeah,
makes
because my father had a great saying, you should always remember this, you can't photograph alibis. It's a terrible thing he did to me, so I'm therapy, trying to get rid of that.
It was your fault, though.
You were supposed to have the makeup kit. I took all the other stuff.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah. So many stories, but I do want to open up to anybody that might have some questions in the room. So if you do, let us know. If there's anything in the live stream coming in, let me know. If there are any questions. We got some.
I have a question.
Yes, me! Neil, everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to know, how hard was it for you guys to get all of this information that you put into it? Like, the pictures of the old makeup artists, the studios, all the footage that you had, did you have to go through a whole lot of rigmarole to get it all? Did you have a lot of photographs, or did you have to go find it in archives
That's
of
why it
studios?
took 4 years.
Yeah.
I had somebody steal all the photographs from me years and years ago.
Oh.
So, you know who he is. And
Oh.
so we didn't have too many ourselves, but we went around to everybody. I didn't know Steve had all those molds, or I would have talked to him earlier, but by the time we talked to you, we were already, had pretty much assembled
Tons of that stuff.
So you unfortunately did not have a lot of it yourself, you had to get it from all your friends and people
Right.
that have
Yeah.
worked on everything?
Right.
Did you actually get anything from the studios? Were they helpful in any way or not
You know,
helping?
it's crazy, because if you go to the studio, if you went to 20th Century Fox, they might say, you can't make this documentary. This is our area, this is our film. So we used, everything was fair use.
Anything that was fair use because.
We bought and/or borrowed film and whatnot that was already.
It only
before
had footage that was a few, within a few seconds, as long as it's fair use, because they just make it a legal thing when we're trying to tell a story of all these
Even though
makeup
it's a
artists
documentary.
that are not here, and.
Yeah.
You had to pay for the releases, didn't you?
Oh,
You had to
yeah,
pay
yeah.
all those.
The people that we used their product, yeah.
But the clips
Yeah.
of the other films that you had,
Yeah,
you had to pay for
yeah.
that, right?
Right, yeah. But still, we just
That-
not getting this history.
It's
was
crazy
important.
making a documentary rather than making a film. When you make a film, you have a script that tells you everything that's scripted. You need to know what happens, and then it's a director's interpretation and or producers add to that. But in a documentary, you have an idea and you have to film it, and then you make a story. Even though you know where the story's kind of going to go, the same kind of script doesn't apply. So it's kind of a lot of guesswork out there,
Yeah.
hoping you're going to get what you need.
Yeah, and like leading the story, because you don't know, it's not like a script that's laid out, you're just like
Yeah.
pulling together pieces and just being like, please, put this come together. But of course it was iconic, iconic time, and an iconic part of cinematic and makeup history. So there's a story, he knew there was a story. That's why you're like, let's make a movie. Any other questions out here? Yeah, what you got?
I remember seeing in the documentary how everyone about the new Planet of the Apes was kind of like, oh, it's all CGI, it's not the same, whatever. What was your opinion on it? I don't remember seeing what you guys thought about it, or like more entail about what did you think about it?
Well, I think that original film is crude by today's standards.
Oh, for sure.
It's still better. And the reason why I think it's better, because you have actors playing, this is good news for makeup, you have actors playing characters, and all the nuances that actors bring, the serendipity, their mistakes, their movements and whatnot. When you look at the CGI one, everything's perfect. Even although they pose them and they move them perfectly, and they have wonderful close-ups and they're beautiful, but they're too perfect, and I don't get the soul. I don't feel the soul of the character.
You don't feel the connection.
It's like this movie that just came out, the Irish.
Irish.
Oh, yeah.
The old, when they make them CGI, when they do that young, I don't buy it at all. There's something wrong with it, and I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger exactly on it, but there's something that does not look real to me.
Answer your question? Yeah? Any other questions out
It's
there?
an important piece.
Oh, we'll get her and then we'll get you.
I wanted to ask, in the age of CGI, do you think anything as creative and powerful and timeless as this could happen again?
You know, I don't know. Making films is really strange because sometimes you work on a film. And I worked on a film, I don't know if you've ever seen it, called Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate broke United Artists because they went so far over budget. It's the most expensive movie of their time. And the man who directed that, Michael Cimino, had directed Deer Hunter before that. Deer Hunter was a fabulous movie. I think he won personally 3 Academy Awards. And so they gave him carte blanche to do Heaven's Gate. Well, Heaven's Gate ended like 3.5 hours long. But I thought I was working on Out of the Gone with the Wind. There were performances in there that would bring you on the set as people watching. These actors would bring you to tears. I mean, it was so powerful, and yet it went nowhere. And then you work on some little thing like we worked on Phantom of the Paradise. little film that almost cost nothing. They never even paid me for that helmet and the work we did.
Still waiting for the check.
I've never still to this day I've not been paid for it. And it was nothing movie, no money, and yet this movie got a cult following and made a huge amount of money. So you just don't ever know when you're working on it. You have to go into it believing it's going to be not necessarily financially successful, but your work needs to be addressed like it's going to be a blockbuster.
Yeah, how was it with Planet of the Apes when you were on that movie? Did you feel like this was
I
going to
knew
make
it.
it?
I knew it right
Yeah.
when I read the script. I knew that this was something special.
Yeah.
I think in my 54-year career, I think I probably read, I tried to count them the other day, I think it was 12 scripts that were, I call page turners, where you can't not turn the next page. You can't stop reading it until you finish the script. Like Blade Runner was one of those. You just couldn't put it down. And those are rare. And sometimes those movies under the wrong direction go in a wrong direction.
Yeah. Barry, were there any projects that you worked on that you felt were going to be a big deal and then they were not?
I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah. Let's not later. Now, that's what, any other questions out here?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll get you. Yes.
So I have a comment and then a question. First of all, thank you for being here and giving us this insight, behind the scenes look on Planet of the Apes. I'm fairly new to the special effects world. I just graduated cinema about 2 years ago. I love it, and thank you again for sharing this with us. The question is, I saw in the documentary how you transitioned from an apprenticeship to a studio, and you had kind of like a hesitation when you had to buy out somebody to then run your own business. And us as entrepreneurs coming in the business, a lot of us work from home. What kind of insight would you give us as to creating our business? What kind of ideas in terms of progression would you suggest?
Well, my first makeup studio was a washroom, probably 10 feet long and 5 feet wide. You know, so what you have to just do it. You have to do it. It takes passion, and it's endless. A lot of people are going away on the weekends for vacations or water skiing or whatever people do, and quite often people in our union will say, you know, I want to learn how to make a nose, a prosthetic nose, simple little nose, that's all I'm not going to do a picture, I'm not going to be competing with you, but I want to make a nose. And I said, okay, I'd love to show you that. Come on over Sunday. Well, you know, Sunday I'm playing golf with, well, how about next weekend? Well, Saturday I'm sailing with such and such, and then I'm going with my wife to the, well, when you feel like it, you let me know. They never show up.
Yeah, and I hear your teachers tell
So
you
if
that.
you have the
advice all the
passion to
time.
do that, and you love to sculpt, and you like to learn about materials and that sort of thing, you just start small. You start small films, and you get that reputation. And as that reputation it exponentially starts expanding. And you try to work as many studios as you can. And I want everybody to know, from this day forward, it takes you 10 years before you know what you're doing. I don't care how good you are. It takes 10 years of all the different scenarios you'll be going through, working with different actors and different directors and producers, and you're going to be brought to your knees from time to time because it's a hard business. And if you don't take care of yourself, you can get yourself beat up pretty bad. So what you want to do is you want to just absolutely always do your best and don't get discouraged. Just keep moving forward because you will get there. Yeah.
Well, that part where they smash your skull, that's a clear illustration of that type of resiliency, bouncing back and know what you're doing. I mean,
Yeah.
what you had now, that's awesome.
Well, John King he was a great man, and at the same time, he had a huge temper. You know?
How about coping with big personalities like that? What kind of tips do you have for that? Because I'm sure in the
like
industry you have to do it.
Yeah.
Is Barry one of them? I feel like Barry's like my best friend. We're talking so much about setting this up for you guys.
She'll tell you.
Yeah, she'll let me know. What other questions we have out there? You had another one? And then
I
I'll get
just
to
want to
that.
know, how do you feel about this year's nominated makeups?
Oh, bombshell.
Bombshell, you can't call them makeups. They're flawless makeups.
Yeah, those look good. And then back there, did you have one? Nobody back there? Some from the live stream?
Yeah, FX Makeup Girl 4 asked, when did you realize that being a makeup artist is something you wanted to make a career out of?
I realized that when I was a kid. I say in the documentary, I met Jack Pierce as a little kid. And that stuck in my head a little bit, that when he said, you know, if you're half the artist your dad is, you should be a makeup artist. That started, then when I was about 12, my dad brought me a makeup case. And so I put beards and cuts and things on everybody who would allow me to. Most people ran. But, you know, messy work back then. The spirit gun wasn't particularly pleasurable. So, yeah.
How about you, for you, Barry? When did you know?
Well, I've always been, I come from a family of fine artists and sculpting and painting. So I was never a makeup fan, but I love great art. That I love. And anything done well is what I see. So I got into the film business because it had nothing to do with my family, and I wanted to kind of just work by myself. Anyway, so I started at Universal, where there were very few women. I think you and I were like, well, how many were there? Not a lot.
I don't know, I was only there for a minute.
A minute? Well, I was there longer than that. Anyway, so because there weren't a lot of women that sculpted and all that kind of stuff, so Nick Marceline would let me he would put me on all the art, anything that had to do with art, painting. I did Tiger Man for
Tattoos.
anything like that. And then I just started to love the idea of this, the focus. I loved it, because I used to be a medical illustrator for plastic surgery. I love anatomy. Anatomy is my thing. And I just love the detail of it. And so, and it's never the same. Every day is different. And even now, over, 45 years of doing this work, every time I would do makeup, it makes you giddy. You're so excited to do, that edge and whatever you're designing. So you have to keep your enthusiasm alive and passionate, and always give 110. I don't care if it's, the tiniest thing to the biggest feature. Everything is you're as good as what you do, and that's it.
Yeah, great advice. Any other questions that we have out here in the audience?
Barry, what year was it when you started at Universal?
1977. When were you there?
I was only there doing Incredible Shrinking Woman
When was
because
that?
Rick Baker was the gorilla and he wanted me there to make sure his eyes looked good.
What year was that?
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
Incredible Shrinking Woman?
Yeah, Incredible Shrinking Woman, Lily Tomlin. It had to have been maybe a little bit after that.
78 or 9?
79.
Was it 79? Is that when it
That's
came
I met
out, or is that
you.
when we shot it?
I met you in
Yeah.
79.
Yeah? And with Shrinking Woman?
Yeah, you were doing Henry Gibson too, right?
Yeah, I was doing Henry Gibson,
You got
yeah.
a hairpiece laid out. Like
Yeah.
So I started in the beginning of 1977.
Yeah. Do you guys realize how many icons you're sitting in the room with right here, all of this?
When I started, there were no women. There was one woman back in the 40s for a short time, Dorothy something, I don't know, I never knew. But there were no women, and what happened is that when they decided during the 1970s, early 1970s, that they were going to get more diversity and they were going to allow women to become makeup artists, there were a couple of makeup artists who were body makeup artists. There were women makeup artists who did from the neck down, and men were not allowed to do a woman's body from the neck down. And it was Dee Mangus and Charlton Roberson, and they were the first two, and they dropped the body makeup category, and they said if you want to, you can retire or you can become makeup artists. They both became makeup artists. That was 1975.
Wow, yeah, it's such a history. You guys are so fortunate that diversity is now something that is sought after in the studio.
the first black makeup artists and hairstylists during that same time. That was actually happened in the late 60s, and so they started becoming much more diverse.
Yeah, it's your world, y'all. You can make something happen here. So we'll wrap it up. I just want to have you guys give some advice to our young makeup artists, and what can they be focusing on now to give them a leg up and some longevity?
I just say don't be in a hurry, because you know that it's going to take quite a while before you go through all the different scenarios you're going to go through to be comfortable, so you're comfortable in it. Because I remember that my early years, my biggest fear was somebody was gonna say, who the hell did that? On a set in front of a director or something. And it happens sometimes, and sometimes it can be very cruel. And so it just, I wouldn't be too anxious. I'd just make sure that whatever you do, just keep going forward, be pushing yourself to become more creative and you don't have to be an artist, by the way, to be a makeup artist. To be really fine. I've trained people in my studio that had never done art and had no idea that they were even artistic. It turned out to be fabulous people. So it's the passion and the love of what we do that will drive you.
Yeah, and how about any advice for you? From you?
I think what's important is to keep your enthusiasm and being creative alive. And for me, I think what you can do, because you have so much time, sometimes you're waiting, there's a mirror, you have a mirror and you have a pad and a pencil, draw and train your eye to see a little more every day. Just try yourself, look at your eye, what's the depth of the flesh between the eyeball and the lashes, and just study and the more you train your eye to see, the better you're going to be, and that never changes until you take your last breath.
Good, well, thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause to Tom.
Because it's going to be released, here's why I'm asking, it's going to be released January 28th, and if we get a really strong pre-order, then it'll go.
What that happens is that we're trying to get it to Netflix. Amazon's already given it 5 stars. So that'll be on Amazon, but they want to get it on Netflix, but this is a distributor. So what they do is they count the orders, how many hits they have when people are pre-ordering it for the 28th. And then they use that as negotiation with Netflix.
Yeah, so if you guys go pre-order, count it as what you paid for here when you got to see it for free, then then we get to get it on Netflix and we can watch it over and over and over again. Awesome, thank you guys so much, and thank you